All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lauren Ruggiero. I am a travel adventure channel, and I go around to countries, I go around to states, I bip-bop all over. And today, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the Norwegian Spirit, a little cruise review for you guys. Okay, so this is my experience. This is where I've went. This is how I did it all, and I'm about to unleash some secrets for you guys. A little overview of the Norwegian Spirit. I went to Korea and Japan. This was a cruise that went out of Korea, so we flew to Korea and we spent a day there in Seoul, and then we headed to the cruise port the next day. So we went a day earlier, and with Norwegian you can ask to have your flights be booked a day in advance. Obviously they won't cover accommodation or food, but they will book you a flight earlier if you want a day or two earlier. They won't go past a day or two, so that is something that Norwegian does offer you if you're going to book with them. So that's what we did. And it was a 16-day cruise through South Korea and Japan. We only did like a day or two in South Korea. I'm pretty sure it was just the boarding day, and then we did Jeju, and then after that it was all Japan. So the booking and the price of everything. So we booked our cruise through the Norwegian website. It was me and my partner at the time. We did it through the website. They were having a sale. I think it was either their Christmas sale or their Black Friday sale. And so we went and booked it in July, which if you're going to Japan in July, pack some really, really light clothing because it is hot. So it'll say 17 days, but the 2 days are basically, or the last day I count as like a travel day. So you're traveling in and traveling out. So I count that full day for traveling. So it's basically 16 days on the cruise itself. And then we did have a little 2-day adventure after in Tokyo, because again, we did delay that flight. We asked them to book it later so that we can stay over in Tokyo for 1 to 2 nights, and then we can head out. We had a 3-person cabin just for 2 people. And we did a random select, so we just let the cruise pick for us what room, because it was cheaper, and we kind of didn't really care what kind of room we got because we weren't going to be in there a lot, because every single day you're at a new port. There's no sea days other than like the first day you get on, so there was no reason for us to upgrade a room or even think about doing anything remotely like that. And to our surprise, we actually got a bigger room meant for 3 people, and it was kind of nice, honestly. So doing a random select usually always works out. There's no need to pay extra for a room, that's for sure. Totally, for the cruise and the flights and everything all together was $2,300 roughly, here or take. With Norwegian, you get buy one get one free flights, so it's always beneficial to book with another person. And it's also kind of hard to do solo travel on a cruise, just because you're basically paying for, like, you're paying double the money if you're just doing it solo, because you're paying for a two-bedroom cruise. Like, they don't have rooms that are just one person. So, or at least with Norwegian. I don't know about other cruises. I don't think you can have that option either. So it's always just better to go with another person, because you can split the cost and you can get that buy one get one free flights. So you're not technically paying extra for no reason. So always keep that in mind. If you're going to do Norwegian, it's just better to book with somebody else. And again, we did book that, I think, for a Black Friday. They have Black Friday deals, and it was cheap. It was, we got the flights, buy one get one flights, so it all totaled to be like $2,300 for Japan, which is not bad at all for 17 days. All right, the ship overview. So what did I think about the ship? The ship was very, very small. Norwegian Spirit, I think, is one of the smallest boats that the Norwegian cruise line has. I think it's honestly their smallest and their oldest ship. Just picture that. I think it has been like renovated I think, once to be more like modernized, but it still has its very old, you can see like the old patterns and the old, you just know it's old as soon as you walk on board. It's not like the newer, bigger ones. It's actually a very, very small cruise ship. So the general look and the feel of the boat is, it's older, it's small. There's not as many people because, again, it's not that gigantic regular cruise ship that everyone knows, basically. And it's funny because I went on an Alaskan cruise in the spring before July, and it was like a bigger Alaskan cruise ship. It was Norwegian, so it was the same kind of boat, but it was like a bigger boat. So there was a lot more people, you know, and so there was just more to do and stuff. So keep that in mind. But again, basically you're only on the boat for sleeping and like maybe some night activities, but sometimes you're docked overnight in Japan. So again, like you're probably not going to be on the boat that much. So even if it is small and doesn't have that much in entertainment, it's still worth it, I think, in my opinion. It is clean. Like it was clean when we got there. It was clean all around the ship. You know, they have like pickup crew and stuff like that. So if there was like spilt ice cream or anything, like it would get cleaned up like within a day, probably less than that. But yeah, so it was an extremely clean ship. I have no complaints there about that. And the design part was, it's just all small, right? And so when you go to like the buffet or, you know, you try to go to a few restaurants, like the restaurants there are like, there's like 2 restaurants. There's like probably like 4 restaurants. You have to pay extra for them. One of them was a 24-hour one, so there was only one restaurant open for 24 hours. And because the buffet closed, all the other restaurants is closed. So it's only that one restaurant that was open for 24 hours, and they didn't do very well with accommodating for dietary needs. It was average. But I'll get to that later. But yeah, so for the design, it's just small, right? It's, you know, you literally cannot get lost on the ship. It's quite manageable, and you know your way around within like the first time you walk on board, basically. Which means the entertainment is kind of short, and also the food, there's not as many options in terms of like a noodle bar or a burger bar or a salad bar. Like, there's not as many options as in that. The buffet place only had one side to it. Usually cruise ships have one side and then another side further down, but because it's so short, you only get a few options in terms of buffet food and stuff. Again, the room service and the housekeeping was swift. You know, everything was picked up, everything was clean. They did such a good job with everything. When we got room service, which was free, by the way, they laid it out nice on the bed. You know, they gave us a little champagne and some like fruit basket, but that was because they made a mistake, which I'll talk about later in this video. But when we did get room service, it was nice, and you just put the dishes outside of your room and they would pick them up, and you wouldn't have to deal with anything. It was great. So the service was great. The housekeeping was great. It was very comfortable. The amenities in the cabin, you got like a closet, you get a shower, a toilet, and a sink. And then whatever, you know, beds that you have, you get like a side table crammed in there somewhere. And then we also had a third folding down bed. And then we had this like little dresser area where we had a mirror and like a little table and a stool. That's what we got in our room. But again, every room is different. And also depending on the size, it is all different based on like what you get and stuff. The dining experience was great. I personally think that it was okay. I think other cruise ships had better. I think the bigger ones had a little bit more better food. I still think that on other cruise brands, the food is better. Norwegian is just kind of like regular kind of cruise food. There's nothing real special. And with this particularly, we ate more at the dining room rather than the main buffets because we had dietary needs. So I did not do well with dairy, and my partner at the time was allergic to dairy and eggs. And with that, we basically had a better option. We had more options when we did the main dining rooms. because they could make it specialty for us, and all we had to do was just tell the chefs, and pre-order the night before. They would have everything ready so that we would just walk down and go there the next day. The buffet, there's a lot less options. You have to specifically ask for oat or almond milk. You have to ask if there's butter cooked in the salmon or whatever, seafood or whatever, or if there's milk on the buns. You have to ask. And sometimes, they're very decent about, how they handle dietary needs. So if they don't know, they'll go ask their chef or, somebody else that knows, or can communicate, because sometimes the language barrier is hard because they're from all over the place, right? So yeah, but there was just way more options in the dining because that we could just pre-order. So we just did main dining all the time. We did not go into any specialty restaurants. That is because they cost at least $50 plus for a meal. And that was kind of not worth it for us because, we're in Japan. We go out to eat in Japan. It was a heck of a lot more cheaper to get food in Japan than it was on the cruise ship. So we just didn't do the specialty dining at all because it wasn't worth it to us. And we were also balling on that budget. So trying to spend as less money and have the most fun is always how it goes. That's what we did for the buffet, the main dining, and the specialty restaurants. I think one of my favorite meals was when we were at the pool deck and they did this, we had a really short day because we had to get on to the next port. So they made us fried rice, and they had seafood in it. So there was mussels, there was clams and shrimp, and it was really good. That was so good. And there was a few dinners, and they just gave us the same dessert for our little dietary needs. And speaking of that, on this cruise, there was a mix-up with the server. So they gave my partner at the time my dessert, and they gave me hers, and mine had eggs in it, and it made her sick. And they realized that they messed up after we ate everything, and they apologized, which then they brought the champagne and the fruit basket. They did that 2 times. It is what it is. It's hard with dietary stuff, traveling especially, but typically it's fine. It's just, you have 2 people, you order different things. Sometimes it gets switched up, especially if they look similar. Our desserts looked the exact same. I thought that both of ours were dairy and egg free, but I guess they didn't do that. So that happened, and my partner ended up getting sick at the time, which was not fun. But yeah, they were very apologetic, and they made sure we got the manager the rest of the time, and the manager he served us the food himself to make sure that, everything was fine and good. So we made a little friend at the end, because he was the only one allowed to serve us at the end. So again, it's a give and take with the specialty dining in terms of dietary combinations. They do pretty well, and if they mess up, they will make up for it in some type of way. And so there's my little speech on that one. But overall, the service at the table are usually good. They're pretty quick. And if you ask, they're always willing to get stuff for you, or whatever the case may be. I've never had a bad service experience, unless I don't know, someone was slow or whatever, but that's just typical, whatever. But yeah, service was great. Sometimes you get the same servers, and then you can form connections with them and ask them hey, do you have time to get off at this port, or what have you doing? Sometimes you make that kind of bond, and I think that bond is really special because sometimes they're from different countries, and they're on this cruise ship for 6 to 9 months, so I don't know, I think it's really cool making those kind of relationships with the crew and the staff members. In terms of entertainment activities, Now, because this was such a small ship, the activities kind of weren't the greatest, right? I mean, you had your obvious, you know, the love show where they like take, you know, the first married, the middle-aged married people, and like the people who've been married the longest, and they like ask questions. So they do that. They do the Broadway shows, and they do, you know, like the trivias and like the, you know, here and there small little game shows, right? They do that a lot around, you know, the ships and stuff. And again, you're spending every single day at a new place. So, you know, a lot of the time the activities might repeat, or they might be like a little bit different, or they might be like one a day. So it all depends on what you're actually looking for. I don't know really about the daytime activities because, again, we were out on the port every single day, exploring as much as we could in South Korea and Japan. So I don't really know too much about the daytime activities on board, but at night they did have a lot more, right? They had those Broadway shows or shows like it. We didn't necessarily have a Broadway show. It was more so like a singer or a magician or a comedian. So it was like one of those, which was okay. There were some dancers and, you know, some shows along those lines, but it wasn't like a whole Broadway show. Like when I went to Alaska on Norwegian, they brought a whole Jersey Boys show to us from Broadway, which was really cool. So after having that kind of experience, getting on, you know, the Spirit and not kind of having that, it was you know, like, that's why I say the entertainment was kind of The shows were okay, you know, the dancers were great, you know, all that stuff, but it wasn't what it could have been, I guess. You know what I mean? And again, there's only one restaurant open 24/7. I think there was one night in Tokyo it was like an overnight in Tokyo, and we went back on the ship and we were hungry. And the only thing that was open at the time was that 24-hour restaurant. And the only thing we could get was, because we both had dietary needs, so they didn't give us a bun. It was like a burger joint, right? They give us fries, they give us lettuce and tomato. I think honestly that's it, and fries. Like they didn't even give us the burger or like a veggie burger or the bun. It was, you know, so again, the options are slim with the dietary restrictions. But you know what? It is what it is. In terms of shore excursions and experiences, here's what I will say about this. If you're young and you're able to walk a lot or even do an Uber, you are 100% sure to save money on the excursions or the shore experiences, because they blow your pocket up if you book an excursion through the Norwegian thing. We paid maybe like, I don't know, $1.50 for transportation in almost every Japan place that we went to get around. I mean, it depends how many times we took it, but it was like $1 for transportation. Granted, you have to walk there from the cruise port to a bus stop or a train station. However, it is a heck of a lot cheaper. Like, I mean, you're talking like you're saving at least $200, right? Doing it on your own rather than through the cruise. Now, listen, if you have money to blow, by all means, go book a shore excursion. You know, you get on a bus from the port, they take you to wherever you want to go, and that's it. But if you're on a budget, you need to, you know, figure out, okay, where is the train station? Where is the bus station? How do I, you know, get there? And so on and so forth. But once you find it, once you get on it and, you know, you have the directions, it is so much easier and so much, like, immensely cheaper just to do it on your own. So I never book excursions on cruises because of this reason. It's basically a ripoff. I think, personally, they just overcharge for the bare minimum that you can do on your own for a lot cheaper. So, I mean, that's any cruise line. I don't book excursions. That's just me. That's my personal opinion. I'd rather walk. I'd rather, you know, take a train, bus, whatever is cheaper. That's just how I travel. But yeah, I don't think that it's worth it if that's what you're trying to do. So on our cruise, we went to Jeju Island, we went to Nagasaki, Kagoshima, Hiroshima, Kochi, Kyoto, Osaka, Kobe, Nagoya, Mount Fuji, and Tokyo. So those are all the places that we went. In Kobe, you can go to Kyoto and Osaka. That's why I like split them too, because it's on the same, you overnight that night, and you can go to Kyoto, and then another day you can go to Osaka, and then Kobe is like where you are ported. So that's why I put them as different things, but they're all in one area. But yeah, so those are all the places that we went. Again, you're getting all of these experiences through a cruise, and you have a place to safely put your stuff. That's also another thing that I really do like about cruises, is that, you know, you have a for sure place to eat that you can eat, especially if you have dietary needs and stuff. Because again, if you're in another country and you can't read the language, like I can't read Japanese stuff half the time. Yeah, Google Translate helps a little bit, but like, you know, to be really sure, like, you know, the cruise is always there. I mean, obviously, even with the cruise, you still take that risk, but, you know, it's better than not being able to read something or whatever. So I do like that because, you know, your stuff is safe, and, you know, you put it, even though Japan is literally one of those, like, the safest countries you could probably travel to, it's still nice to know that your stuff is in a nice locked room, basically, and that you have some place to go to every single night, and that you just know where it is. Yeah, so those are all the places that we traveled. I do think for the money that we paid for this, that this was an entirely worth it experience. I think we actually got such a good deal. And again, things were pretty cheap out there, especially, you know, Japan and South Korea, very, very cheap countries. Cheaper, I'm gonna say cheaper. It's not cheap, but it's cheaper, which I've made a whole other video on the items, and I've also made a whole nother video on what I packed for Japan, so you can go and check out those videos. Some things that I did like about this boat specifically is because the Spirit is a smaller, older boat, it is able to fit underneath one of the bridges in Tokyo, which therefore you're able to port in Tokyo. With the bigger ships, you have to port at another port lower in Japan, where you have to take like an hour train ride just to even get into Tokyo. So I was very, very happy when I found out that because this boat is so small, it can fit under that bridge and take us right into Tokyo. We don't even have to take any transportation other than, like, I don't know, a rail into the city, right? So that is one of the good things that I did love about the Spirit and taking this cruise, is that we didn't have to do an hour train ride to Tokyo. I think that cruises are a way to go and travel cheaply because you're already getting that guaranteed food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, right? You're getting it, like you have that opportunity to get that food, and it's already included in the price, right? When you take a cruise, you know, you're seeing all of these different places, whereas if you did solo traveling or like backpacking, it would just be a little bit harder to get around places, especially because you have to translate everything and you have to, you know, directionally get yourself like all over these places. And when you're taking a cruise, you can just easily just go ahead and just hit all of those spots. And that is something that is truly, truly so nice about cruises, and how much of the country you can actually see on a boat. But yeah, I just think it's a very cool and expensive way to get all that traveling done. And again, they offer, Norwegian goes around literally everywhere, so you can not even go to Korea or Japan, you can go to another cruise line. And it's just a great way to hit a lot of countries or a lot of parts of the country pretty fast and pretty cheaply too. Final conclusion, would I recommend this cruise and the Korea-Japan experience? 100% go for it, book that trip, because it is such an amazing experience. I've learned so much when I was out there, and it is incredible culture shock too that you get to it. It's just truly incredible, and it's an amazing experience, and I 100% think that if you have the opportunity, you should go on the Norwegian Spirit and have yourself an adventure, because it is pretty great. Am I going to do another cruise with Norwegian? Probably, because again, they have those buy one, get one free flights, and they have those deals and offers. So obviously, I'm going to take advantage of that. So that's if I have a person to travel with, because right now I do not. So, you know, if I have other people to travel with, I definitely will consider Norwegian cruises, because I think it's the best bang for the buck. And honestly, it's a cheap way to travel. So yeah, if you're thinking about a Norwegian Spirit cruise to South Korea, Japan, I 100% recommend it. Probably not in July, because it is very scorching hot and you will be sweating your butt off like I did. But it is a true adventure, and I 100% think that you should definitely go ahead and book that, because oh yeah, it's so nice. It really is super cool. I do have a link to my Patreon page down in the description below, so if you want to support my travels and you want to help me with some gas money so I can do some car camping stuff pretty soon in the future, that would be great. I post photos, videos, journal prompts, all kinds of things like that. So if you want to help out, there's a link down in the description below. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and safe travels. I will see you guys all in the next episode. Peace out. Enjoy life. Live it up.